Harsanyi time, everybody. Our friend David Harsanyi from National Review in the mix. Go to nationalreview.com to read his latest. David, good to have you, man. Let's jump right into the free speech issue. I do not think it is even a little bit of an exaggeration. In fact, I would just posit right now that this is the most dangerous time for the suppression of speech in the country in my lifetime. I think even more so than post 9/11 because of the implications of what's being said right now. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's the worst time for free speech since maybe Woodrow Wilson in the First World War, the Sedition Act and stuff like that. I think that people have figured out a way around the First Amendment to suppress millions of people and the things that they say. I'm not sure that I have any sort of good, ideas on how to stop them, but I do know that people whose inclination is to shut down speech do not care about free expression. They don't care about the First Amendment. I think I've noted this on the show before, but simply saying I believe in the First Amendment doesn't mean anything if you don't believe in the values that gird all of that. Lots of places don't have a First Amendment. That doesn't mean we don't believe in their freedom of speech as well. It's a value that we share, but we don't share it anymore. We have CNN and Oliver Darcy and other people like that who are just authoritarians who want to shut down their competitors and want to shut down people who say things they don't like. And the media is the biggest offender, but I think the Democratic Party is pretty bad. And I think it bodes very poorly moving forward for free speech.
I think there are people. I think there are a lot of powerful corporations and voices who would very much like to return to a time when there was. I mean, they don't view it as. I think people have gotten used to Fox News being dominant in ratings, for example, and cable. But there are a lot of folks out there who remember. If you work at CBS News or something, you remember that there was no Fox News until 1996, and we could go back to a country in which there is no full spectrum distribution, conservative cable channel. I mean, they're already also going after Newsmax and OAN and pressuring the cable providers and unlike Fox, those are two channels that they might actually be successful trying to get them to get carriage pulled. I mean, that's and other cable personalities are calling for this. Of course they are.
Yeah, and listen, I don't. The argument is these people are saying dangerous things, like the election was stolen. First of all, I don't care that they're dangerous things. I think you should be able to say whatever you want. As long, and if you're saying something that's slander, someone should sue you, or whatever. So I don't care if there's a QAnon cable network, right? I think they deserve to be on the air. Now, because people are always like trying to make, offer some line on what's acceptable and not. That's not the point. It's a neutral principle. I am for free speech. And just because it's difficult to defend doesn't mean I'm not for it. And the idea that and like you mentioned, they're going after OAN or whatever it's called, but they're also going after podcasts. I forget where it was, USA Today had a piece about how podcasters are finding a loophole in which to speak about certain things. It's not a loophole to speak about certain things. You're just an authoritarian censor. The loophole, there is no loophole. The loophole is the one that they are using to shut down speech they don't like. And so anyway, it's just a dangerous way to think about the world, to start saying this is acceptable and this isn't. People always mention yelling fire in a theater. You can yell fire in a theater. That was from a Supreme Court decision around World War I that allowed Woodrow Wilson to throw anti-war socialists into jail.
Yeah, Shank v. U.S., it was pure authoritarianism.
Exactly.
And the Holmes decision was an abomination. But people still yell this like it's an argument ender.
I know. So anyway, we're in agreement.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example even today. You know how I feel about lockdowns, and I'm sorry, it is my view of this has always been if we're even having, and I just mean in general, if society's even having a debate about how effective lockdowns were, that means they weren't effective because we got put into this with the belief that it would be clear. I mean, you saw the Atlantic and all these different experts. These people were writing in major journals and publications back in May and June. We'd have a 60%, 80% reduction in the virus. And now you look at places like California, all-time record, right? I mean, so if it's not obvious that lockdowns are really effective, they're clearly not effective enough to justify. And by the way, I would argue even an even more extreme position than that, but clearly not effective enough to justify the abuse of power and authority. But here we are. I was just trying to tell people my thoughts on this. And David, I got dinged on Facebook for writing, after COVID, let's and put this in quotes, after COVID, let's mask up during flu season 2. It's already starting. Just a few voices here or there are in support of this comment, but it will grow and grow until mask up forever. It's the polite thing to do is the new mantra. There are people right now who are starting guys, we probably should actually wear masks after this because it's so effective and we want to stop the flu as well. Look what we've done to flu cases in this country. I'm making an argument about a future policy. I'm not even negating or questioning mask effectiveness. I'm just saying and I get this is dinged for, you have to go to the CDC for more information. And the way this works now is I'm going to be shadow banned on Facebook for the next month. For what? For pointing out what is true? There are people advocating for masking even after the mass vaccination happens. The argument for masking after you've been vaccinated is insane, but people are making that argument still.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even understand. Like, you can't say the election was stolen. Like, why can't I say those words? It's ridiculous. But on the mask thing, I mean, I'm pretty radicalized on this now, in the sense that I'm sorry that I supported any lockdowns ever at all. I mean, I just don't think the government has the right to tell you not to go to church or not to go to your business. If people want to lock themselves down, that's their business. If people want to tell you not to tell you to wear a mask in their place of business, that's fine. But I shouldn't be forced to do it, to be fined if I'm walking in the street, et cetera. There's just government has no power to do that. And I mentioned it again on this show. You have governors who act like dictators. And I mean that in the most literal sense. In the Roman Empire, they had dictators in times of emergencies that had full power to do whatever they wanted. And that's exactly what we have now for almost a year in states, in Michigan and Virginia and in other states, New York. It's just un-American. And I just can't believe that the Supreme Court allows them to do that. There is just no precedent for it in American history.
I'm furious as well that not only has there been all this overreach and, as you point out, the tyranny of these governors, and primarily Democrat governors, although there's some Republican governors that have really been way too willing to go along with the Fauci consensus on this stuff. That guy, Dr. Fauci, I mean, I don't care what anybody says. He's a disaster. I mean, this guy is not helpful. His ideas are not sound. He does not have good judgment, but he's used as this. He's almost this, superhuman figure that we all, if you challenge him, this guy was wrong about the risks and spread of HIV for years and years when he was a top public health authority. But that was decades ago. He's been wrong about this time and time again. But you see in Europe, David, like there was just a protest in the Netherlands, and there's a photo of a guy jumping on this police machine that's essentially like a water cannon, anti-protest vehicle, and he's on the windshield. This protester's jumped on the windshield. He's, putting out the middle finger to this guy. And I was like, where is that in this country? They've had huge anti-lockdown protests in Spain, in Germany, in the Netherlands. I mean, in the UK, thousands of people gathering together. Here in America, we just sort of sit around like, yeah, maybe one day the vaccine. Well, what's it going to take?
I don't know. That's an interesting thought. Maybe people are less inclined to listen here as it is in many places. So I don't know. When you have urban areas with tons of people, it probably becomes more, apparent, or maybe they're enforcing it harsher, but those are just guesses. I don't know why. I don't know why Americans aren't more upset by this. I think there's a lot of scaremongering going on. And again, I'm not diminishing what's happened. We know what's happened. Hundreds of thousands of people have died. But the idea that we should just shut everyone down when mostly this is a disease that affects older people, we could have protected them. We could have protected other, parts of the population that were susceptible to it, and allowed the economy to move on and to go on. And it just didn't happen that way. And you're right with St. Fauci, My problem with him isn't even that he's wrong about a lot of things. My problem is that he treats people and American citizens as children. Like he will tell us, oh, I had to say that, what was it? Herd immunity is going to be at 65% because I didn't want to scare people and say it was 90. Like, that's not up to you. You're a public official. You need to tell us the information that you have, and then we make decisions. This is why I hate when people say scientists should be running things. Scientists do not balance out, in their thought process, all the things that go on in society. It is dangerous to allow scientists to run things. It's dangerous to allow them to lie to people, to American people.
St. Fauci, David. The original sin for me of St. Fauci was, and I believe this is BS. I do not believe that this is even really true. He was dismissive about the public wearing masks, and we're told because he didn't want us to all run out and buy the N95 masks and there wouldn't be enough for healthcare providers. That means this would be like someone telling you as a doctor, don't take that antibiotic because I'm worried that somebody else who might need it more to save their life won't have it. That is what he did. That is immoral. It is wrong, but he gets this pass on it. He gets this pass. And you know what the truth is? It's because he knew that the data up until then, and he knew that the science up until then did not support the trade-off of what he now tells us is obvious. But he can't say that, so he says, oh, I made this. This idea that he lied to us for our own good about masks, this is awful. But people think that this is an excuse.
Like they're children. And there was a piece in the Times, I think today or yesterday, where they talk about vaccines and how a lot of these public officials in government are downplaying the effectiveness of vaccines I don't know why, because they think that, people are going to act irresponsibly or whatever. That's not up to them. This is a free country, or was, and we can act in any way we feel like within the law. And it's not for them to treat us like children. It also bad public policy.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I'm sorry, because politicians are not as bright as everyone thinks, I hope. And, I hope they don't think that, but they aren't bright. And they make policies on what Fauci says. The governor of Michigan is not bright. She just does whatever Fauci says. So if he's lying, she's basing public policy on his lies. And that's dangerous, or not just him, other CDC officials and government officials.
And we're speaking to David Harsanyi of National Review. Read his latest. He's a clear thinker, and he actually cares about free speech at nationalreview.com. David, the next fight, and you're already seeing this start to happen, and because this comes up in that New York Times article, this idea that we should all mask up after we're vaccinated, that is rooted in a premise that they'll start to lose control of making people mask. And so maybe then we'll all be safer if we all mask until we're all sure. But on an individual basis, it is irrational. It is irrational to tell someone they have to wear a mask after they've been vaccinated because of, in the Pfizer trial, 1 out of 30,000 people actually got sick, didn't die, got sick with COVID after being vaccinated. If you have a 1 in 30,000 chance of getting sick, which means a 1 in 30,000 chance of even getting it and passing it to anybody else, so now that's not, now you still have to wear. These people are insane. This is crazy.
They like to control you, and they're going to say, why is it okay that 50,000 people a year die of flu when we can just stop flu and put masks on, as if we're supposed to walk around being safe from all things all the time? It's ridiculous. As soon as I get that vaccine, I'm not wearing a mask anymore. I hate wearing a mask now, and I don't think it's good for society to wear a mask. I don't want to get into the specifics, but just interactions with people are weird. Facial features.
It dehumanizes all of us. There's a reason why the Taliban dresses women like beekeepers. There's a dehumanization to the depersonalization of your appearance in this way. It is not good for society. And this is I'm gearing up for this fight. I'm going to get banned from social media for it, though, David. I'm going to get kicked off of platforms for saying post-vaccine, you should not have to mask. And Fauci, if he had any guts whatsoever, would say that. But we still have about 40% of New York City schools closed down because he doesn't have the guts to say it's outrageous that they still have schools shut down. He doesn't want to offend the lib CNN watching consensus.
But have you noticed a shift in sort of the shutdown stuff since Biden won the election, with Cuomo saying we can't go on doing this forever, and other liberals? I think you're going to Yeah, I think now because it's not useful to them, and people call me a conspiracy theorist about this, but I don't think I am. I think that you'll see people being more positive, putting more positive spins on things, wanting to open things up. They don't want the economy failing under Biden, and but they do want to keep controlling you. So I think that will be interesting, especially with the masks. But more than that, the speech. The speech bothers me more than anything. There's no reason I shouldn't be able to say the election was stolen, because you know what? Maybe it was. Maybe one day it will be. And what, I can't say those words because it offends someone. It's also this sort of, they've used the Capitol riots to sort of smear everyone. Jake Tapper does it all the time on CNN, to smear everyone as some kind of radical conspiracy theorist for having any questions that do not comport to his worldview. And it's a way to sort of chill debate, and I think it's dangerous.
Harsanyi, we're in this one together, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us. NationalReview.com. Read David's latest. Please support his work. Follow him on social media before both of us get kicked off. David, thanks so much.
Thank you.
However, I have said to Joe Biden that I do feel that when he lay out his agenda and invite participation from the other side, if they're going to be recalcitrant, if they're going to throw up roadblocks, go on without them. Use your executive authority if they refuse to cooperate. That is what Abraham Lincoln did to start dismantling slavery. That is what Harry Truman did to start the integration of the armed services. All these things were done by executive order. So you can do big things and you can do great things. And you can do things that are lasting. Nothing has been more lasting than the Emancipation Proclamation. Same thing with integrating the armed services. So I think that Joe Biden should lay out his proposal, invite cooperation. If they give it, work with them. If they don't give it, work through them.
Just steamroll the Republicans. The Democrat member of Congress there, Clyburn, telling you just Joe Biden, he's got a pen and a phone now, and he's going to use it. Don't worry about anything that the other side wants or arguments that they're making. They come to your side. They do what you want, or you run over them with an executive order. They take your policies as their own. They submit. They bend the knee, or we want the super executive once again. No, notice. You know, it was terrible when Trump used executive orders. Oh, it's tyranny. Now they're like, yeah, Biden, use all those executive orders. Same thing with Obama. It feels like nobody these days in the political establishment really has much in the way of principles, but particularly on the left, they don't even pretend anymore. And it doesn't even matter, right? Whatever's good for them in the moment, whatever elevates their power and prestige, that is the principle. Everything else is just standing in the way of that. Carol Markowitz over at the New York Post with an excellent piece here. Beware the experts who want lockdowns to go on forever. Let me give you a little bit of this one. This is going to be really important. This matters to all of us. It matters to the health of the economy. Matters to our individual freedoms and rights and liberty. It matters to whether or not the Constitution even counts anymore. And I think, we've gotten it in our heads that we're much closer. We are much closer to liberation from lockdowns than we really are, especially when you see some of the arguments that are being made right now. Here they go. Quote, now that the COVID-19 vaccines are here, it's time to celebrate the beginning of the end of this plague, right? Not so fast, Carol writes. The media and expert classes seem determined to make permanent the pandemic's abnormal way of life. In December, a New York Times piece, Here's Why Vaccinated People Still Need to Wear a Mask, kicked off the permagloom. Vaccinated people will still need to wear masks because those with high viral loads could be even worse spreaders. The paper quoted Dr. Yvonne Maldonado of the American Academy of Pediatrics. Even worse spreaders. That's horrible. It's also horribly misleading. I know because I read the rest of the article. The fear arises from studies on monkeys, which found that some vaccinated monkeys didn't get sick, but still carried the novel coronavirus in their noses. But wait, those monkeys were intentionally exposed to massive amounts of virus and still had less virus than unvaccinated animals. While Cornell virologist John Moore told the Times, well, maybe don't intentionally expose yourself to massive amounts of the virus then. A continual drumbeat of opinion keeps repeating that vaccination will change little or nothing. The new line is that we will be wearing masks indefinitely, and we should really be wearing more serious masks, and certainly more than one. Masks are going to be with us for a really long time, Alicia Schechter-Perkins, a Boston University physician, told Chalkbeat, especially because we know kids are not going to be vaccinated right away, and masks are a really strong protective measure. No, kids won't be vaccinated right away. That's in part because kids seldom contract COVID-19, very rarely have severe cases, and aren't major spreaders. Across much of Europe, kids under 12 don't wear masks. Forcing 2-year-olds to wear them indefinitely is sheer American madness. End quote. Great piece in the New York Post from Carol Markowitz here. I've been telling you that there is a mass hysteria at work with the American approach to COVID, and I'm right. And I've been right all along. And with more data, more time, I'm even more certain of that rightness. This is insane. We are now, because of the heightened anxiety and the media panic mechanisms around this, we are accepting a future in which the infinitesimal possibility of COVID infection for anyone will still be grounds for COVID restrictions on everyone. This is nuts. This is from people who aren't as smart as they think they are, who want to control other people, and who live with this constant anxiety of, oh my gosh, I may not be guaranteed to live to 100. You know, a lot of what I've seen here is that there are some of us who understand that we could die any day, that any of us could die in any day, and we're doing our best, and we're trying to live the most, purposeful, decent, and worthwhile lives we can with the time we've got. But there are no guarantees. But there is certainly a mentality that I think is prevalent among a lot of leftists, among a lot of libs, a lot of atheists in particular, of that set, who believe that, the government will keep them safe and protect them. And they're terrified at the notion of any threat to their lives. And anything the government says that will protect them, they're willing to go along with. This is fear. This is a kind of day-to-day cowardice, really. And unfortunately, it has infected the public mind here to the degree that those who are just terrified all the time of the virus are shouting and screaming and making so much noise about it that the rest of us have to operate under their rules. Even though I've said all along, if somebody wants to live in a bubble, if they want to take extreme precautionary measures for themselves, they have that right. But they have the right now to force everybody else to do that too? On what basis? There are other respiratory diseases that are out there, like the flu, as you know, that kill people every year, that kill immunocompromised individuals. And this is starting to be something along the lines of some people can have a lethal reaction to peanuts as an allergy. They can go into, I think it's anaphylactic shock, right? They go into shock from peanuts. And so now when you get on airplanes, they'll say, well, no one can open peanuts because there's a severe peanut allergy on board. So what if they said we need to eradicate peanuts from all of society? You can't have them anywhere. You say, well, how many people really die from peanut allergies in any given year? And then you say, well, how many people, peanut farmers, and how many different, businesses, and, Mr. Peanut and different brands, and how many millions of dollars and thousands of jobs are all tied into this. And I don't know, maybe a couple of people die every year from peanut allergies in the U.S. I'm not sure of the numbers. I know it's not that big. But it's about saving one life, don't you see? So we have to ban them everywhere like we're banning nuclear waste. Because a few people have that. Now, I understand. I'm taking this intentionally into the realm of the absurd, but it's because what you are seeing now with the arguments about forever masking and forever lockdown, those are absurd arguments. And they're based on a similar line of thinking to what I'm telling you with the eradication of peanuts from the whole world, because there are people that have peanut allergies. Once you are vaccinated, well, let's say with the Pfizer vaccine, 1 in 30 30,000 people got really sick from the Pfizer trial, like actually had a bad case of COVID. About 4%-ish had some form of COVID, much less. Okay, much less. This is across 30,000 people. So now, if you're going to tell me that, the chance is less than 5% that you could even get COVID, and think about this, you're going to be around other people if they're vaccinated too. This is now 0.5%. I'm sorry, this is now 5% and 5%. You start doing the math on this, and it's 1 in 20 and 1 in 20 that you would, even if exposed to COVID, that's 1 in 400 that the second person is going to actually have a risk of contracting COVID. I mean, now you play this out. This is how herd immunity works. So it's not just that you are very unlikely to get it, but somebody around you also has the vaccine, is very unlikely to get it, and this keeps playing out. But it's never going to be entirely zero, is the point. Be people out there who have the unfortunate reality of a severe peanut allergy, where if it even has particles in the air, they could go into shock. We can't protect people 100%, and we shouldn't be forced to try. But that is what is happening right now with the latest mentality. You're seeing it. You go do a search, you'll find it online. People saying, because so here's where we've gone to. I used to say, why don't we mask up for the flu and never have, if it's so effective and so important, and if it saves just one life? People that were mask maniacs were saying, shut up. This is worse than the flu. You're a flu bro. That's irrelevant. And it's not irrelevant, because it's the exact argumentation they're using applied to a different circumstance. So they just shouted it down because it was inconvenient, because clearly what it shows is a long history of society accepting that we cannot stamp out entirely influenza and influenza deaths, and that it's not something that we should try through the measures that we're talking about here. If we got a vaccine, great. And we do take vaccine for flu year in, year out, but it's only 40 to 60% effective depending on the year. We don't make people mask. We don't shut down businesses. We don't do all these things for the flu. And we pointed that out to show that, we lived in a society where we understood that there will be some risk to living your life from some diseases that are out there. And they didn't like that because it was inconvenient for their argument. So they said, shut up, don't talk about that. Now you know what they're doing? Now that we're getting to the end of this pandemic, probably in the next 6 months, we'll actually get to vaccination at the level that we need. But now we're coming to the end of this. They're saying, yeah, you know what? We probably should mask up for flu too. That will save even more lives. Flu, virtue signaling, masking is now a serious thing. And it's going to gain steam too. Going to gain steam because it goes to this part of people's brains where they think, I'm a good person. I like science. I'm one of the smart people. So everyone should have to do this too for the flu. And I would say that everybody then should also have to do this for the common cold. Some people who are immunocompromised, not a lot, but some people who are immunocompromised are at risk of they can develop, viral pneumonia from what starts out as a common cold infection. That can happen. A cold can get much worse, especially if you're severely immunocompromised or you're elderly. So we're all going to be wearing masks all the time now, forever. And when do you wear them? When they tell you to wear them. So remember, it's not as though we even get the benefit of perfect, continuous mask usage. That's not the reality, which is why these lockdowns and mask policies have obviously failed. It's because you wear them until you sit down at a restaurant. You wear it until you adjust it. You wear it until you start coughing or whatever. Now you're just breathing air like everybody else, or you've coughed your germs into the air with everybody else around you. Right? So it's always this highly, highly imperfect mandate that's been put in place, as we know. But now they're going to be arguing in favor of it. Let me go back to this piece that Carol Markowitz writes in the New York Post. Meanwhile, Gavin Yamay, a professor of global health and public policy at Duke, urges people to wear N95 high filtration masks under cloth masks. Who decided we should aim for a risk-free society? If 2 masks are better than 1, why not 3, 4, or 5? Why not 8? For that matter, why don't we reduce speed limits everywhere to 10 miles per hour indefinitely, a move that would dramatically reduce car accidents? Some experts seem almost spiritually invested in forestalling a return to normalcy, and so does the incoming Biden administration, end quote. Those of you who listen to this show know that I have been saying for months and months, just wait, they're going to say you're wearing the wrong masks. Just wait, they're going to tell you it was really the N95 mask. Oh, how did I know that? Those of you who listen to the show know that, again, for months I've been saying, just wait, they're going to tell you you really need 2 masks. 2 masks better than 1. And to that I just say, people to COVID, and they're not willing to go to 3 masks? Are they not willing to take this seriously? I'm a triple masker. This is like turning into those razor blades where it went, 4 blades, 2 blades, 3 blades, 4 blades, 8 blades. I mean, how close a shave do you really need, right? Well, that's what we're doing with masks. And I saw it coming. If you look at my Twitter feed, although I know they're trying to purge everything now, but I'm on record with this. I have been telling you they will say these things, and now they are being said publicly by health experts. How did I know? Because I know what these people are doing. I know what their mentality is. I understand the game that they're playing. I understand that they're invested in this because, God forbid, we all figure out that what they've been telling us to do all along just made us all more depressed, more harassed, and did not bring anywhere near the health benefits they pretended. And I'm talking about things like locking down millions of people from their offices, telling them they told you not to see your family over Thanksgiving. They told you it was reckless to see your loved ones over Christmas. And then they went and did those things. But they still say it publicly. Why? And the establishment, the social media companies who have benefited tremendously, Amazon, Google benefit tremendously from lockdown. Their bottom line, I mean, as well as just the general users and activity online, they are full in on suppression of what are clear and obvious truths now. They won't let someone like me even say, just wait, because if I can predict the stupidity of the mask mandates, if I can predict what the mask maniacs are going to say next, and I have, then people start to say, hold on a second, why does this guy, he doesn't have an MD, he doesn't have a science background, why does he know? Because I understand what these authoritarian tyrants are doing. I know what they're up to. I see it. And I understand what their incentives are here. Their incentives are not to keep you healthy. Their incentives are their own reputation, power, and control. That is what they care about. And they will not budge on these issues because the moment there's an opening, you say, well, hold on a second. Are we or are we not allowed to make risk assessments for what's acceptable in society? It's appalling what they're doing right now. I don't know what it's like where you are across the country because we're in now 200 stations and we're in cities all over the place, and some cities are better than others when it comes to this. But I know I'm in New York City until I move to Florida, and producer Mark and I are already talking about how we can make that happen. But I'm in New York City, so I know what's going on with the school system here, and they're now also misrepresenting what's going on because it all looks so terrible, given what the science and the numbers tell us. De Blasio, the worst mayor in America. Some of you fight me on that one, and you say your mayor is worse. And if you live in Portland or you live in Seattle, maybe Denver, I don't know, but you live in some of these cities, yes, okay. Los Angeles, you can argue with me about your mayor being worse, and I'm open to that. But the New York City mayor is a unique level of awful in many ways. And he says that the vast majority of schools here are open, right? That the COVID pandemic hasn't forced them to lock down. It turns out that 344 schools in New York out of 850 schools are closed. So 60% of schools are open. That's the vast majority. I mean, it's a majority, but when you say vast majority of schools are open, people are thinking, at least in my head, I'm thinking 80%, 90%. That's the vast majority. 60%. So that means 40% of New York City schools are closed right now for COVID reasons. Students are not learning. They're doing this Zoom stuff at home. It doesn't work for a whole lot of kids, especially low income and minority children. They suffer the most because of this. And yet they say things. And look, it's intentionally dishonest. Oh, a vast majority of schools are open. No, they are not. A bare majority of schools are open when all of them, 100% of them should be, because we know beyond doubt, and even Fauci, that little quizzling bureaucrat, has to admit this, kids are at almost no risk and almost never spread it.